Do you sometimes get problems with lights not turning on when you enter a room? It's really frustrating for both you and your family. Or do you have one of these lighting setups where you have to read a sign to figure out how to turn the light on? It's confusing for your family and even more confusing if you've got guests over. Running a smart home is a big responsibility, and in this video I'm going to tell you how to get your family on your side. A smart home is about making things simpler for everyone, not more complicated. So instead of thinking, how can I automate this thing? Instead think, how can I make this task easier to do with automation? If you take a light switch as a basic example, everyone knows how to use a light switch. On, off, on, off, on, off. So either don't automate it at all, or if you're going to automate it, then do it in a way that's familiar with people. Great options here are smart wall switches, such as the Aqara ones that I have, because they can just be operated normally. Or you could go for Shelly relays, whereby you have it behind the back box, and then you can just use a normal switch as well, so people are used to how they work. And then when they're working normally, you can build on this and start to automate your lights instead, based on motion and time of day, or even better, with light sensors. In our house, we very rarely touch a light switch, and my partner just expects the lights to turn on when we walk into a room. As soon as lights start to not turn on when you expect them to, frustration sets in and they start to mess with your automations. Not helpful. I would generally steer clear of smart light bulbs for normal lighting situations, but they are great in situations where you haven't got a light switch. A great example of this is for night lights or bedroom lamps, where you can place a smart button by the side of the bed, and rather than having to hunt around for the toggle switch on the cord, which is out of reach behind the unit, then you can just press the button instead. One thing that my partner's very good at is getting sidetracked, and so I've created an automation that pauses the TV whenever we leave the room if we've got a recording on. We have Sky Q, and we watch pretty much everything recorded. There's a great Home Assistant integration, which makes it nice and easy to see what's playing and allows you to also play and change channel as well. The last thing you want is to walk back into the room half an hour later and for the final plot twist to be revealed on you. Oh, great. Speaking of walking out the room, I've also got an automation whereby it turns the TV off if we've left it on and we've been out of the living room for more than 15 minutes. This one does somewhat annoy my partner a bit, but who said saving the planet was easy? Did I also mention that I'm her slave? One thing that gets used a lot is that if she needs my attention, then she's got a button for that to call me. Which one of these great videos should I watch next?
Hey Mark, Christine needs your attention and a Coke Zero.
Okay. Or if she's getting low on her drink, then she's got a button for that as well. I don't think I need to say any more on why she likes these ones. Before I talk about more automations that she likes, I just want to talk about hardware for a minute. So I mentioned that you want to start off with simple automations ideally, but after that you also want to make sure that you've got the correct equipment for your devices and also that it's correctly configured as well. Your choices are generally either Wi-Fi, Zigbee or Z-Wave these days. I've got a Zigbee playlist if you want to check that out, but in summary, it's critical to have a stable network whichever one of these you use. There's no point having smart lights in your outhouse if you can't even get signal out there. I've got a couple of tips for you for when it comes to having a stable Wi-Fi network. So if you've got parts of the house that haven't got very good signal, then you could consider moving your Wi-Fi access point, but that might not be an option to you. So basically, there's no getting around needing additional wireless access points. And then once you've got a strong, stable network of Wi-Fi, I would recommend don't play around with too many of the advanced settings because they often cause more hassle than they're worth. I've got a unified network and I've got VLAN set up and various other things, and it's quite complicated. But the reason for this is that I'm not willing to compromise on security. But whether you have VLANs or not, I'd recommend trying to keep to some of the simple settings. As an example, I've tried playing around with RSSIs, fast roaming, DTIM periods, and much more, and they normally cause more hassle than they're worth. The only exceptions to this really are if you've got lots of new devices all on the same VLAN, then you can probably get away with playing around with some of those because newer devices are a bit more tolerant to these settings. I've experimented with lots of these settings over a period of months, and often you just end up with intermittent connections for your IoT devices. Anyway, back to what my partner likes about our smart home. A fairly recent addition that she really likes is an automation whereby the front door opens automatically when she gets home from work. This is particularly nice when it's cold and raining and horrible outside. We already had it so that the lights turned on for her when she got home, but now it makes it even that more bit easier, especially if she's holding some things and can't open the door easily. For this automation, I use a combination of proximity and location sensors to ensure that the front door doesn't randomly unlock itself when no one's home, because that's the last thing you want. When it comes to going to work, we've got a couple of automations related to reminders. So one of them is, when you go into the kitchen for the first time in the morning, then it will leave you an announcement through the Google speakers automatically. So you can set that up in Home Assistant, and then it will read out that reminder when you go in the kitchen in the morning so you don't forget something.
Good morning. Remember to eat the yogurts as they are today's date.
We also take advantage of the great custom Mercedes integration for Home Assistant. This allows us to have a similar reminder whereby when she goes in the kitchen in the morning, if her gas tank is below 25%, then it will remind her that she needs to fill up with fuel on the way to work. Now don't get me wrong, our smart home certainly isn't perfect. For example, the last 2 mornings, one of the blinds has decided that it doesn't want to open with all the other ones. Our Zigbee network is certainly not perfect, to be honest. In fact, it's about as far from perfect as you can get. We've got 4 Xiaomi gateways and also a Sonoff Zigbee dongle as well. And this message in Home Assistant confirms as much. The reason for this messy setup is because I've had these Xiaomi gateways for quite a few years now, and it was before I even understood the Zigbee network and all of the interference issues between them. We also use them as night lights at night time, so they're very useful and integral to our smart home. So it's going to be quite hard to change it, and I'm not really ready for an overhaul quite yet. Another reason for keeping them is that we've got a lot of Aqara devices, and they're the older Aqara devices that aren't Zigbee 3.0, so they're not quite as compatible with other Zigbee gateways, which means that they're not very good at roaming between routers, and therefore I like to just stick with the Xiaomi gateways for these devices. Hopefully this video has given you some ideas on how to keep a happy smart home, and if you want me to go into more details on some of the automations, then drop it in the comments below. Well, that's it for today, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and liking the video if you enjoyed it. So thanks, until next time. Which one of these great videos should I watch next?
Hey Mark, Christy needs your attention and the Coke Zero.
Okay.